Allen wants to go. Wants the baseline. Fade away. Yes. He's way too good. He steps around Lou and drilled it. And the Sixers have scored 9 in a row. 7 straight points by Iverson. Looked like he was dead in the water. The Sixers by 4.
And welcome to the Sports Skill Radio Show presented by the Heat Ratio Sports Network on this June 13th, 2021. We thank you for joining us. Please don't be afraid to post any comments, thoughts, takes in the comments field. We love to hear them, and we love to address any of your comments. So please don't be afraid to post any of them right in the comments field, and we'll get to them. I am Jeff, and I'm joined by the coach Shane McGowan, Alex Secchia, Michael Nibby, and, of course, my brother Jay. Check out sportsskillradio.com for our podcasts on Spotify. And don't be afraid to leave a hot take on anchor.fm. We have those links all up on our website. So please go ahead and check out sportsskillradio.com, and also check out our sports blogs, as Michael Nibby, as well as several of our other contributors do a tremendous job writing sports blogs, so do check out the blogs as well. On the Skillet this morning, we have several great topics to get to. Of course, we have the basketball, which we will get to, including the Sixers. Do you buy into the theory of tanking? We want to get into that, as well as the fact that, hey, do you actually think the Sixers could lose this series? Do you think that the Sixers will continue to advance in the playoffs? We want to know your thoughts regarding the Sixers. So leave your thoughts in the comment field regarding the Sixers. Also, we have the Phillies. They won an extra inning game, a 10-inning game against the Yankees yesterday after the Yankees came storming back from a deficit. The Phillies won in 10 innings. Another walk-off hit by Gene Segura. So congratulations to the Phillies as they managed to survive a game against the Yankees, and we will dive into that as well as any other sports topics that you may have on your mind. Just like I said, leave a thought or a comment in the comment field, and we will get to them. But we will start off with the basketball. And the Sixers seem primed to be well on their way. Last Sunday, we left off wondering, Joel Embiid was going to play in this series. Not only has he played, but he has been the main factor in this series. He has put up big numbers, and the Sixers have basically, gone ahead and destroyed the Atlanta Hawks. It's really, not really been that competitive, and it looks like the Sixers could win in 5 or 6 games at the most. But I'll put it to the coach, Shane McGowan, first. Shane, they were like we left off last week. We were wondering about Joel Embiid. Well, guess what? He showed up, and he showed up in a big way.
Yeah, no question about that. I mean, the guy's on fire. There's no doubts. He's doing what he's got to do, keep the team in this again, like I said. But as you can see, Simmons is not very good offensively, so they're using him as that defensive guy to keep chops a little bit. So, I mean, his production is going to be down, so you're relying on Harris and the others to get in there and do their thing. But like I said, without Embiid, I think that team would be in a lot of trouble. So they need to make sure that he stays healthy. They need to make sure that they get the production that they need from him. But like I said, I still think you got quite underestimate those Hawks either a little bit. I think they've got some talent on their own to make this go to a, like you said, possibly a 6th game, and that would be interesting because I think the longer it goes, the maybe not beneficial it is for the Sixers if they can get a little bit more rest before meeting up with the next rivals that they're going to face,
which will more than likely be the Nets. And to build off of what Shane is saying here, the 76ers needed that defensive anchor, that guy with the defensive anchor signature skill, to throw in a little NBA 2K reference because I play a lot of 2K. And that was and is Joel Embiid. He's not just a defensive anchor. He's a floor general. He makes all the guys on his team better. He can shoot the three. He can get inside. He can block shots. He is that anchor for the Philadelphia 76ers. Without Joel Embiid, the Sixers are in trouble against the Hawks. And the Hawks have the talent to push this to 6 games. I think this is going 5 or 6 games. I don't think it's going 7. I think the Sixers take it in 6.
And it's before I was I had to like talk to myself. It's funny because I realized myself going between both sides of the fences, and I hate when I do that. And I have to call myself out when I do that. I was always skeptical about starting Embiid because of the injury. You're going to worry about tearing his injury more and, all that stuff for later on. But I like the fact that he's playing because it's not even like they're limiting him. He played, 33 minutes yesterday? Or he played the last game? He's going all gas, no brakes. That's what I like to see because Jeff and Shane can talk about this way more than I can. I only know stories, but it brings back the old mentality of those athletes that played through injuries.
Like Jordan's flu game.
Like when Deacon Jones used to play with a cast on his arm, or when Dick Butkus went in with his messed up hand surgery. I know those are football references, but still, those athletes playing through those injuries is what you want to see. And I was like, you know what? I sat back and I'm watching the game. I'm thinking to myself, I like this. I like that he's playing. I like that he's still doing really good.
And he's got that old school mentality that you were talking about, Alex, to bring him a basketball reference from yours and my generation.
Yeah.
The Michael Jordan flu game.
Imagine if he is 100%. That's what everyone's going to say, but there is no oneness at this point. He is producing the way he's producing. You hope the Sixers can put this to bed to bed early so they can have that rest like Shane hinted to, because your next series is going to be no joke. The Bucks or the Nets, whoever crawls out of that one, is going to be a dominant. It's going to be a competitive series. You're going to hope that series goes to Game 7, and you're going to hope the Sixers put this game away or this series away a lot faster.
The Sixers Nets or Sixers Bucks series is going 7, no question about it.
Well, I really don't know about that. The way the Sixers are currently playing, the Sixers are playing at such a high level.
And there's Jay.
That you wonder about either the Bucks or the or in fact going or the Nets going against the Sixers if Embiid is playing like this, because like Alex was saying, he elevates everybody on the team, and that's just the natural that's just how big Embiid really is to the Sixers, and how key is to them winning a championship. At the same time, you look at the you look at the Nets and the Bucks series, and you got a huge game today because the Nets can go up 3-1, or you could have a 2-2 series and a best of 3. So you have that swing game coming up today. As far as that series goes, and that's
if the Nets go up 3-1, it's over.
That's a key series to watch, and I'll put it to the coach one more time here, Coach. When you look at that series right now, you have no James Harden obviously at this point, but and we saw obviously Giannis come out and make an imprint in the last game in the series, but that the Nets would love to. Like the Sixers are doing in their series, try and get up on Milwaukee and put that series to bed there, Shane.
Yeah, you know what? The last game was a garbage game. About only
Shane, you're cutting in and out,
86
man.
points or whatever it was. Absolute garbage game, and you got production from 2 players on both sides, all right, between the Bucks, while only having Giannis and Middleton scoring for them, all right? And then you had Durant and Irving playing on that side. So it was a garbage game. You didn't get production from the rest of the teams. I expect it to be totally different tonight. I expect it to be more of the 110s, 120 scores, everything like that, because like I said, Nets knew what they had to do, and they saw exactly what happens when you play garbage-style basketball. So like I said, they're not going to fall for that trap. They're going to come out ball supposed. I expect, though, like I said, Giannis to be who he is and make the production, but they're getting nothing out there, right? Which is absolutely bad on their end for Milwaukee. And again, like I said, I can see Harris now stepping up a little bit with his threes, and I got to see Blake Griffin also play a little bit more tougher, like he did in Game 1 against that Bucks team. So I expect the Nets to come out there and be a lot more stronger, a lot more dominant. And then hold on there, Michael. Just give me a second there, Chico.
I'm sorry,
and then, like I said, from there, exactly what happens with the Bucks, and then play with all.
Shane,
I'll get who I really have been. I think Lopez has done a lot at that center position to do his very best, controlling that rim and everything like this, and getting some production too. He's getting the minutes and everything like that. He's a bit of a force when it comes to blockage lately and stuff like that. So they got to get around him a little bit more, but that's when the outside shooting is going to take effect. So, like I said, I thought that last game was a total garbage game on both ends of the low scoring that it was. And tonight they're supposed to prediction of 220, I believe it's 223 to 228. All right. So you're going to see some high scoring game.
But Jeff, you're muted.
What's Alex think?
What do you think, Mike?
I'm going to go with Shane here. It's going to be a high scoring game. Irving, Griffin, and Durant, they're going to be big contributors. Joe Harris is going to be a big contributor. I'm seeing 115-105. Nets take it.
115-105?
Yeah. The Nets are playing like the Nets of the early 2000s when they had Jason Kidd, when they had Vince Carter, Kenyon Martin, Kerry Kittles. I remember those Nets teams. They were winning 45, 50 games on a regular basis. They were going up against teams like the Lakers, like the Iverson 76ers, getting to the finals. Not winning the finals, but getting to the finals, getting to the Eastern Conference finals, getting to the NBA finals. That's the Nets teams I remember. They're playing like those Nets teams.
Hey, I'm against you. I'm not going. I'm against you. I'm for the Bucks. Listen, I can't be having no 3-1 series. I need a 2-2 series to go to 3-2, to go to 3-3, and someone to win that way. So I'm going Bucks all day long. I'm sorry, but
This is going 3-1.
I needed to go 3-1. 2-2. You just needed to go 2-2. No question about
Alex, this is going 3-1 to Brooklyn. Nets finish it in 5.
You also said boxing is fixed, so I don't want to hear it. You also said UFC fighting is fixed too.
Can we mute Alex here?
But looking at the western side of the NBA right now, it appears that those series are just about all but over. It looks like we'll see what happens with Phoenix today, but it looks like Denver couldn't just compete. I mean, they just got run over here in this series in their series, so. It looks like the West is heading to their speedy conclusion, and that should be an interesting series there, Shane, as we look at the Western Conference Finals.
You know what? I have to say that Phoenix has actually come out a lot more and played a lot more aggressive ball, especially Chris Paul out there. I think he's just taken over now that he's cleared. And you know what? Denver, as you can see, when they're missing pieces of a Jamal Murray and everybody like this out there to help with him, because Porter Jr. has not produced the way he's supposed to, and Aaron Gordon hasn't done his role, was there as well. If that is MVP, he is team doing everything he can. But like I said, without. And you're right. I just see Phoenix taking that one. They're playing great out there in numerous ways. Their shots are going down, everything there. So Phoenix, to me, is that team that's going to move on and advance. And like I said, they just don't want to go away. They want to make sure that they got this LA team out there still floating around. So Clippers are still hanging on. They're doing what they got to do to keep themselves in the mix. Because I think they're realizing that, listen, they're the type of team that plays better under pressure. I think they need to be on the time, step up and do what they got to do. Like I said, it's going to be a battle when it comes to those guys over there in the LA side.
Shane, you are cutting out a little bit, so you may want to fix your connection. Go out and maybe log back in a little bit because you are cutting out. I'll put this question to my brother Jay. Jay, this has been a topic going on through the week that I've been hearing, and it's an interesting topic. Do you buy into the tanking of the Sixers for what they did? Do you think it was all worth it or not?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm a big Sam Hinkie fan because here's the thing: with the way the NBA is and was at the time, the Sixers could be that last playoff team to qualify. Could be, one of those middling teams that hover around 500, maybe qualify for the playoffs, maybe just miss. And when you're one of those teams, you have a tough time getting better, right? Because you have to hope that the draft you get a high pick in the draft lottery, or something like that. But when you tank, you know that you're going to get a high pick in the. You increase your odds of getting a high pick in the draft lottery, and that's what Sam Hinkie did. He increased his chances of getting the high pick in the draft lottery. He maneuvered around, got a lot of second round picks, and turned them into Ben Simmons. Eventually, turned them into Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. And the Sixers would not be where they are today without Ben and Joel. They simply would not be, and some of the other players on their team. And that comes from the tanking. Now, granted, I want my team. Now, granted, I'm a fan of a team. I want my team to go out and win. But would you rather your team go out and be a middling team for years and years and years with no hope of recovery, or would you rather your team tank for a couple of seasons, get the draft picks, put them to good use, get good players on your team, because that's normally how a lot of these teams get their good players, and then become really good playoff teams, and that's what the Sixers did. So yeah, I'm a fan of Sam Hinkie, and the Sixers would not be where they are without the tanking.
You could obviously say that's one way of doing it, but then you've got the Brooklyn Nets, which would totally dispute that theory because they went out and bought their players. And
they became the Yankees. They became the Yankees of basketball.
So in an instant, the Nets became, by going out and getting Durant, by going out and trading for Harden, by going out and doing that, they instantly became, force in the Eastern Conference. So, going out and tanking, to me, you're basically throwing away seasons. You're basically saying to your fan base, don't come out, don't watch these games. We don't care about these games. We basically want to lose as much as possible. So don't bother supporting us right now. Support us in the future, but don't bother supporting us while we're going through these seasons because we're deliberately trying to lose games. And I don't think that's necessarily it's one way of but you got to get lucky with players.
But here's the thing, Jeff. Some of these cities in the NBA, the only way they can get better is by tanking, because you're not going to get, some of these players are not going to go to some of these cities in the NBA. That's the thing. You get some of these Midwest cities or whatever. The only way they can hope to get a superstar player is by tanking, is by drafting them. And the only way they can draft them is by tanking. That's the only way they can do it. And and what you're saying is you've got to hope you're a big market team with a lot of money to spend to convince these players to come to your team.
And not only that, to go on what Jay's saying, and shout out to our viewer Al, how you doing, sir? We see your comment. The loyal fans are going to stay around. They're going to stick around the process. They're going to go through your hard times together. But at the same time, they'll probably see what you're doing too. Okay, we're going to take so we can get these guys like Jay was saying when you pull in Joel and Ben. Because we've seen it before. Shoot, I heard my buddy who's I'm sorry, I keep bringing up the football reference. Yeah. My bad, but it's just right off the top of my dome. My buddy, he's a Giants fan. And he was hoping the Giants would just tank the whole season for the number one draft pick. Or just he was hoping they would they weren't, obviously, because we saw what happened with Jacksonville. But he was hoping they would tank, You see it through sports when the team's doing bad or not looking good, or there's a certain player that you can get later on, or if you can free up cap space to go sign a player who's going to be a potential free agent, You see fans say stuff that are negative about the team. I hope we tank. Might as well just do bad. It's not like they're going to go anywhere. And then you're going to live so much better when they get the guy, the player, or something like that you wanted, the draft pick and stuff like that, because now the team's going the route you wanted to go on. And if it goes south from there, all right, well then, yeah.
Michael, your thoughts?
Okay, so I did a paper on tanking for one of my college classes, and I basically frown upon tanking. I see why most teams do it. Edmonton Oilers in the NHL. Jacksonville did it last year in the NFL. Miami Dolphins did it a couple years back to get Tua Tagovailoa. I just don't see what the big deal is with tanking. And I'm going through that process right now with my New York Giants, as Alex said. I just don't see it. I really don't.
I mean, sometimes it works in your favor, sometimes it doesn't. But when you've got no chance in your division, when you have no chance in the season, you're going to have to try and help build up next year. That's where I see it coming. Am I saying I'm for taking? Nah. I like all gas, no brakes. I want you to keep pumping against the wall. I like that stuff. I'm not saying I'm a fan. I can see why. I'm trying to see both sides. But when you look at your thing, you say, okay, we kind of have no hope. Let's look for next year. All right, they're going to do it. Teams are going to do it, and teams have done it.
And let's be honest, if you look at the Sixers, they really didn't have much of a choice after the Iverson era. They really had to, at that point, make a decision as to what direction they were going to go. And they just weren't going to get, LeBron James. They weren't going to get, any of those top players, as Jay pointed out, to come to Philadelphia. So the idea was, as far as Sam Hinkie was concerned, was to be as bad as they could to try to get as many good college players, top college players as they could onto their roster, and then build around those players. That was basically the idea. Trust the process.
And now only time's going to tell. At this point, only time can really tell what avenue is better. Going out, buying your players. You got the Nets. Tanking and getting the players you did in the Sixers. And only time will tell what happens. Sixers prevail over the Hawks and versus the Nets, or do the Bucks overthrow Brooklyn, or do both East teams lose? Only time's going to tell at this point.
I think it would be a classic matchup as far as tanking goes to have, the Nets obviously play the Sixers. That would be an interesting thing because the Nets went out in one direction, the Sixers went out in a totally different direction.
Will be a question.
How those organizations approached it. Brooklyn wanted to be good fast, and they decided, okay, if we can, sign Kevin Durant, if we can trade for Harden, and and
sign Irving,
and build up, the roster around that core that they can be good, very quickly instead of taking the slow, methodical route as far as tanking goes, because tanking is more slow in terms of building the roster. But you've got to have players willing to come to the city, and the Nets obviously lucked out getting Durant, obviously wanting to play in Brooklyn.
And the only time's going to tell what's going to happen here.
Yep.
But we're seeing it again in the NHL. We could be seeing the Vegas Islanders Stanley Cup Finals.
Yes,
Vegas, the Yankees of the NHL right now. Islanders, the Sixers of the NHL right now.
Exactly. So I think it's it's a flip side of the coin as to which direction you go in. Both sides can be, as I said, successful as long as, but there are risks in doing either way. And you just, as Alex said, it has to play out. So we just have to wait and see how this thing plays out. As far as this series goes, as far as Sixers go throughout this next week, does anybody feel that this series will still be around when we come together next Sunday?
Yep.
No, it ends in 6.
Over in 6. Brooklyn, my bad. Brooklyn or Sixers?
Six.
You know how I feel about the
Sixers end
Brooklyn
in 6.
Sixers.
Brooklyn.
That's going to 7. It's going to 7.
No, Brooklyn goes 3-1 today. They finish it in 5.
You also said boxing was fake. Go up. No.
Can we mute Alex?
No, I said UFC was fake. We're done. 7.
Jay, your thoughts?
No, I think the Sixers are showing that they're the more talented team than Atlanta. I think Atlanta gets their runs in, but I think the Sixers will close out the series before we come back on next week. But I do think the Brooklyn series could go 7 games.
We have a viewer on the live stream that said Sixers in 5.
Yep.
Yeah, I say, we'll see what happens. I think today's a pivotal game in the Brooklyn series with Milwaukee. Does Giannis have another couple games in him to get this to 7 games? We're going to find out whether that cast over there in Milwaukee has what it takes or whether or not Durant and company is going to exert their influence in this, today. Go up 3-1. If they go up 3-1, it's basically going to be a 5 or a 6 game series. The matchups that we've seen here in this round have been, the NBA can only hope to have that series, I think, go 7 games. Yeah. They need that with the Western Conference ending early, which I think it is. They need the East, obviously, to come out and have some competitive series here before we get to the Eastern and Western Conference finals. With that, I think we'll move on to baseball, Jay.
Okay, sounds good.
And, Alex, we got to talk about your Yankees. We also got to talk about the Phillies because I'm watching these 2 teams yesterday, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm watching 2 bad teams.
Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking right now because I'm looking at 2 teams that can't close out a game. I got 2 closers in the game yesterday, and neither closer can Hector Neris. He gives up a 3-run home run. So there's that, and then the Yankees say, okay, well, we'll bring in our closer in Aroldis Chapman, and for the 2nd game in a row, Aroldis Chapman has blown there. So I'm looking at both these teams. I'm saying, they put up a bunch of runs yesterday, but neither one of these teams looks like they're going to be a factor in their division.
And that was the problem. And I have a lot of respect for Aroldis Chapman because I did meet him. And I do have a lot of respect for him as a person because he's a really nice guy. But, we've seen this problem before with Chapman. That's why the Reds got rid of him. I was hyped when the Yankees picked him up as me being a Yankees fan. I was like, oh, yeah, we got Chapman. Pick up at where the Sandman left off. He didn't. It went downhill a little bit. We had those problems. That's what's bugging me.
That's why the Yankees got rid of him first.
We had the hitting problem. I addressed the hitting problem. No one's putting contact on the ball, right? We had at one point no one batting over 300. No one. Caius at that one point, what was it, Jeff? Like three weeks ago, that show? It was a guy who batted 286. I want to sacrifice more of that home run swinging. We put a lot of money into Stanton and Judge because they can hit the ball over a fence. But if they don't do that, they're striking out. I need guys like LeMahieu to step up. Hicks to step up. He had that good season. And then they gave him that extension. Guys like that need to start stepping up. Sanchez needs to start doing something. He was another guy that looked at you could just bomb over to somebody. If he doesn't do that, he's ground out, striking out. I need to see more contact on the ball. I need Chapman to control his pitching more, right? Yeah, you have a cannon. We know you have the cannon, Chapman. But we need to see that accuracy more. We need to see you pinpoint more. We need to see him deliver a little bit more. Those things, the Yankees, here's my problem. The Yankees have a good team. But they're failing in certain areas for trying to overcome. I feel like they're overcompensating in a sense. You're swinging for the fences. You're throwing too fast. Like, they have the right guys. It's just that you got to go back to the fundamentals. It's going back to the basics. This team was in 2nd place at one point this season. Now, they fell off. I'm glad they set the 4-game losing streak. But like you said, it's just 2 horrible teams right now. Boone's going to do a lot better job of coaching this team.
And I'll bring in Jay for the flip side of this coin and to rant about the Phillies. And the Phillies have 3 walk-offs in a row. But are you buying into this, or are you selling at this point as far as the Phillies go?
I am holding steady at this point because really you look at the division where the Phillies are in, and the Phillies are really the only team within real striking distance of the New York Mets. Phillies are 5 games back, 4 games back. Then you got the Braves at 6 and Miami at 7, and the Nationals at 8.5. I mean, right now the Phillies are really the only team within the division that can offer some competition to the New York Mets, unless the Mets start falling off. But you get these walk-off wins, and it builds confidence in your team that as long as I keep playing for all 27 outs, maybe something good can happen. But you don't want your closer coming into the game when you have a 3-run lead in the 9th inning and giving up a 3-run bomb. That's not good. And as Joe Girardi pointed out after the game, it wasn't necessarily the home run that was devastating. It was the 2 walks that came before it that really killed the Phillies, because you're putting extra guys on base, and you look at the Phillies, they made the Yankees make some plays in the field. That's what propelled the Phillies to the win yesterday. Gino Urshela had a bad game at third base, fielding the ball earlier in the game. And the Phillies kind of singled the Yankees to death. And that's what you want to see out of your team. You want to see teams manufacturing runs. That makes the team good, not necessarily playing for the home run. And so right now I'm looking at the Phillies. I think the upcoming road trip that they go to play the Dodgers and the Giants, and then they have the Nationals after that. But I think the upcoming road trip will tell exactly where the Phillies are, because the Mets could really do some damage if the Phillies go out to the West Coast and play the Dodgers and the Giants and go like, what is it, 0-6 or something like that, and don't win a game. That's why this upcoming road trip is going to be key for the Phillies, because they got to go out. They got to play the Dodgers really good, and they got to play the Giants really good.
Here's the problem with the Phillies. You can point out the good, but then there's the ugly and the bad, which is the fact that they're horribly bad. They're a horrible defensive team. They don't really field the ball very well, and that's a big issue with the Phillies. And then obviously, having the kind of lead they did and not being able to secure it at the back end. It's a leaky bullpen. You have people covering up their face. Just really when Hector Neris comes in the game, it's not a pretty sight right now for the Phillies. And Joe Girardi's hanging with Neris, so there you go. He's not willing to make a change. He's not willing to make a change yet at the closer position. So. We'll see. We'll see what happens if Neris gives up a couple more bombs, because, frankly, I've never bought into Neris as, big-time closer. And, if you want to be a team that wants to be a playoff team, I don't think you can go to the playoffs with Hector Neris as your closer, because he's too inconsistent. He just gives up too many home runs and too many blows too many saves and the Phillies. They picked a lot yesterday. They picked up Neris. There are going to be games where where Neris going to do what he did, and they're not going to pick him up, and that's going to be more of a glaring thing. It's all good when your team wins, and you can come out and can say, "Well, we won the game. A win is a win." But there are some weaknesses I think the Phillies have to address here and tighten up if they want to actually be a playoff team. Whereas you got the Mets, and I'll bring up Mike Nibby on this, because the Mets are getting healthy. That's number one. Number two, they got good news. Met fans were sweating bullets as they would, because you've got the best pitcher on the planet, if not the best pitcher. And I'm going to say it right now. And I don't know if anybody would argue with me, but I'm looking at this and I'm saying DeGrom is maybe having the best season in Major League Baseball history from a pitching standpoint. I've never seen a pitcher pitch this well for this long to begin a season. It's just an amazing run by DeGrom, and he is just dominating baseball in a way that just hasn't been dominated in a very, very long time. I mean, you have to go back to some of these, Chrissy Mathewson or some of these other pitchers in way back years that just dominated baseball in a way that
I'd go back to Seaver there, Jeff.
I mean, he is far. I mean, he could be. He's far and away the Cy Young winner, and he could be the MVP as well, based upon what he's doing. But the Mets got great news on him, so it doesn't look like there's a big injury there with the tendonitis. So he looks good. And the Mets obviously getting 2 wins over San Diego at home. They obviously have a lot of games coming up, Mike. A couple of doubleheaders coming up. One against the Phillies coming up not this week now, but next weekend. So it should be an interesting run here as the Mets go into late June and before the All-Star break.
It's going to be an interesting run, no doubt. The Mets are 5 games up in the division. I did not see this coming, but I'm glad it's here. I'm glad that they are leading the division with Jacob deGrom, .55 ERA at this point in the season. I have not seen numbers like this since Seaver. And that was my mom's generation.
No, it's better than Seaver. It's better than Seaver ever pitched. I mean, this is the great. I'm looking at this and I'm saying I don't know if Jay can go back and say and put anybody else in the category, but I mean I'm looking at the numbers and DeGrom is just dominating baseball in a way that just hasn't been dominated, Jay.
Yeah, I mean you have to go back into the early days of base. I mean you have to go back to Gibson and those type of pitchers. I mean. He's doing stuff right now that's, I mean, out of this world, and that's why that's the way he's pitching right now. And you go up against him, and you have to have your pitcher on his A game, and you have to hope that the Mets aren't hitting, because if the Mets hit it all for him, you're going to wind up losing the game. That's how well that he's pitching right now, and then. As the Mets get these guys back healthier again, they're going to be even better, and that's why these other teams in the division have to keep pace with them right now. And the only team that's really doing that right now is the Phillies. Everybody else is kind of dropping off a little bit.
Well, I think everybody else is kind of banged up, pitching-wise, injury-wise in this division. You look at a lot of teams, Atlanta, Washington, certainly, losing Scherzer. He's out with an injury. I mean, you look at the teams that, I mean, the Marlins, I didn't really buy into the Marlins run last year, although they had a good run. They went to the playoffs. I mean, the Marlins are basically the Marlins. They have some good players, but they've been banged up as well on the injury front. So, if you look at it, the Phillies, have their share of injuries. But on the same note, I do want to bring up that, the Mets have DeGrom doing what he's doing. But in any other year, you'd be looking at Wheeler as a Cy Young kind of candidate. Because Wheeler's doing amazing things on the mound as well. But DeGrom is just leaving Wheeler in the dust, and that's kind of hard to do with how well that Wheeler is pitching.
Oh, yeah, without question. Wheeler is definitely the ace of the Phillies staff right now. And, without question. I mean, Aaron Nola is pitching today. He's kind of dropped off a bit. He has to regain his form. Zach Eflin has been a good number 2, I would say. But, again, you have to get everybody contributing on the Phillies. And if they're not, the Mets are going to put this division away early.
Yeah, I mean, Mike, if it wasn't for Wheeler and, Met fans can look and say, look, we let that guy go. We said goodbye. I mean, obviously they've got, pitching staff that a lot of teams would be envious of. I mean, yesterday, Stroman showed what he's made of yesterday. So, you saw him flex his muscles. So you're seeing the depth, I think, in this Met rotation right now, Mike.
Yes, we're seeing that depth of the Mets rotation. With DeGrom, with Taijuan Walker, with Stroman yesterday. I think Walker's getting the start today as the Mets try to sweep the Padres. Is that even possible with Fernando Tatis Jr. in their lineup? I'm not sure. We're going to see it, hopefully. But we're seeing the depth of the Mets pitching rotation. And as these guys start to come back, as guys like Alonso, as McNeil comes back, Conforto coming back, Nimmo, soon Carlos Carrasco will come back. as these guys come back and get healthy, the Mets are going to be the team to beat in the NL East. Right now, they are on a 92-win pace, and that pace is just going to get higher and higher as the Mets win games.
I think there's one team in the National League right now that is eyeing as far as the best team in the National League, and that is the Chicago Cubs. I was able to watch a little bit of the Cubs game last night on Fox, and the Cubs look very good. I mean, I know Met fans, they don't want to mention, the Cubs, but the Cubs right now, they got it going on right now. They found their pitching. Hendricks is pitching well at this point, so they studied their rotation. Their offense is getting going a little bit now. You're starting to see, some of these players on the Cubs sort of percolate and get going here. We know Rizzo has some ability out there, and it's going to get interesting, obviously, because if you look at the Central race right now, it looks like the Cardinals are kind of dying off. And it looks like Milwaukee and Chicago for the Central. And then, of course, you got that three-headed monster out west with the Padres that have been losing recently. 2 games, obviously, here to the Mets. And a little bit before that. And then, obviously, you got the Dodgers that just haven't really gotten going yet. I mean, the Dodgers have been sputtering along here. And, they haven't gotten it going. And one team that has gotten it going that Jay, you have to talk. I mean, we know this road trip is going to include going out to the Giants, and you got to give credit to that Giants manager right now. I know fans don't like him very much, but he's got those Giants playing right there with the Padres and Dodgers now, leading that division.
Yeah, Gabe Kapler's got the. Well, this is what Gabe Kapler is. He gets a team playing well for half the season, and then they start tanking. So let's see what happens to the San Francisco Giants after the All-Star game in the second half of the season in August and September. Because he had the Phillies playing well for half the season, and then the Phillies went into the tank and bottomed out. And that was my problem with Gabe Kapler, is that he was never able to put, 2 halves of the season together. And when you wanted the Phillies to play really well, they bottomed out, or they bottomed out early in the season and had to spend all their energy and effort trying to crawl back into the pennant race. And that was a big problem with Gabe Kapler. So my thing is with Kapler is, let's see what he does in the second half of the season. He's got the Giants playing really well now, and he had the Phillies playing really well in the first half of the season, I think, in his last year. And then the Phillies bottomed out. They couldn't win a game after that. We saw that in Philadelphia. So let's see what Kapler does in the second half of the season.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's going to get interesting. Mike, any your thoughts?
Yeah, I remember Jay's Guanas Canal bit from the 2019 season when Kapler bottomed out in August.
Yep.
And Philly fans had enough. They wanted him fired. And Kapler was fired to make way for Joe Girardi, who was actually my pick to be Mets manager after Mickey Callaway got the boot.
Yeah, Mickey Callaway not even in baseball anymore.
Serves him right for what he did.
Yeah. Exactly.
Mickey Callaway, if you're watching, I don't know if you are, you're probably not, but you know what you did. You're an idiot.
Absolutely. It just goes to show, when you look at as the managers go around the carousel, obviously, and they land on these teams, some of these managers obviously land in better spots than others. That's true, obviously, for Tony La Russa, as he's put the White Sox, obviously, in first place out there in the AL Central. But the fact of the matter is, there just aren't a lot of great teams in baseball right now. I think everybody in baseball is dealing with injuries. Everybody's just trying to sort themselves out right now as to what they have or what they don't. And you're looking at a lot of these divisions, and you have some really, really bad teams that are out there, and you have some teams that are better than others. But, at this point, I still think, as we round past Memorial Day and we head for, the 4th of July, that teams are still trying to figure themselves out, especially teams like the Yankees who have to deal with Tampa and Boston in their division. So that creates some urgency, obviously, for the Yankees because you can't allow those teams, Alex, to get too far ahead of you. And that sweep out there by Boston was devastating last weekend for the Yankees.
What happened to Alex?
He's muted.
I'm sorry, guys. I had to run upstairs real quick. My mom was calling me. I kind of missed what was said. I tried typing.
I was just mentioning, Alex, that the division, obviously in the AL East, you can't allow the Yankees cannot allow those teams in Boston and certainly in Tampa to get out too far in front of them because that's just going to create a lot of panic there in Yankee land as they try to stay afloat here in the AL East. So today becomes a big game for the Yankees.
Yep. And that's what I was saying a couple weeks ago because they were going to run into that Rays series. They need to win. They're going to have to beat these guys. So at that point, that when they were in the position they were in with the Rays in first, the Yankees were in third, trying to make their way into second. And it's the same thing. It's the same game. At this rate, they lose. You might as well. We're going to be looking at what we just talked about 20 minutes ago. Tank the season. Tank. Y'all can't hit. You can't pitch. Tank. It's bat on balls. I want to see contact hitting. Don't strand the runners. And if you get the runners in and you score and you bring them in, pitching better seal the deal.
Unfortunately, you owe a whole lot of money to a guy named Stanton right now, so that becomes
that's a bad contract. That's a bad contract.
That becomes a little bit of a problem because he's spending a lot of money, and Derek Jeter can only smile as he's gotten rid of he got rid of that Stan contract and watches Stan obviously not give the Yankees the kind of production the Yankees were expecting out of Stan. Obviously, Judge has played well this season. Make no mistake about it. Judge has played well. But overall, the pitching of the Yankees just has not been there, behind their ace. So
and that's what we were talking about. I'd rather see you get players not buy into these. Never mind.
Into these systems. Jeter outsmarted his old team. That's all I can say.
Absolutely. So, Jay, is there anything else you want to mention as far as baseball goes?
Nope, I am good.
I think we lost Shane.
Yeah, it looks like we did.
So, talking. So I'll just mention the fact that the NHL playoffs are obviously ongoing, and that should be interesting, Michael, as we now have I want to say conference final set, but it's really the semifinals because you really have three Eastern teams playing in the as it works out because the Canadian teams all played in one division out there in Canada. So Montreal ends up coming out of that division. So now Montreal comes down. They run into Vegas. Thank you very much. Goodbye, Montreal. If that series goes 5 games, that might be a lot. And then, of course, you got the big Slobberknocker series. Everybody's anticipating with Tampa and the Islanders. So that should be fun to watch. And I think everybody's predicting a long series here, 6 or 7 games out of that series. And I like the Islanders because this is a revenge matchup from last year in the bubble. So I like the
Edmonton bubble
out this season because last year obviously Tampa got the better of New York last year in the Eastern Conference Finals. Now the Islanders can seek out some revenge. So I like the Islanders and I like the Vegas Golden Knights, and that should be a fantastic finals. Mike, your thoughts on the remaining playoffs here in the NHL?
Oh, well, Montreal was a dark horse. Not going to lie. They had to go through Connor McDavid and Edmonton. That was no easy task. But the Jets swept them. Thank God. Then they had to go through the Winnipeg Jets, who got themselves swept. Revenge. And now they gotta go through the Yankees. Yeah. I mean Vegas. So to quote Ariana Grande, thank you, next. So Vegas sweeps. And now we get to another semifinal.
Yeah.
Revenge match from the Edmonton bubble. New York Islanders versus Tampa Bay Lightning. I think New York wreaks their unholy vengeance. Tampa's a good team. I'll give them that. But for New York to win, they got to slow down Stamkos. They got to slow down Hedman. They got to slow down basically everyone on the Tampa Bay Lightning. They got to win at the blue line, fight for the puck. I think they'll do it. I think they'll get their revenge behind their keepers, Sorokin and Varlamov. It'll be 7 for that series in favor of the Islanders.
And then, of course, if that all works out, you've got a great series, in my opinion, coming up in Vegas and New York. I think that'll be tremendous to watch. Those two go head-to-head because, people who may not follow the NHL may understand, but the owners, when they brought Vegas in, their whole intent was basically to model after the Flyers, which was to try and win a cup within the first 5 or 6 seasons of their existence, and to try and build in that fashion. And certainly, Vegas has been able to accomplish that to the point. They haven't won the cup yet, but they've been to a cup final, and now they got it.
They almost won the cup in their first year.
Yes,
I did not expect.
Yes, but now they got an opportunity to obviously go back, to the cup final again. And, we'll see if the Islanders can impede them and, obviously win a Stanley Cup for the
first time in 30 years.
So it'll be interesting because, and I said, I was thinking this to myself, is wouldn't it be interesting if the Islanders won the Stanley Cup and the Sixers won the NBA Finals? That'd be 2 parades in the Northeast. That'd be kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Cities.
Not to mention that this is the last year for the Coliseum. So if the Islanders were to win the Cup, hopefully in a cup, hopefully at Nassau Coliseum, that crowd would be wild as blank.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just
be some momentum to carry over into UBS Arena.
I'm just thinking, you're going in, you're playing in a horse park,
Battle up, Islanders fans.
But yeah, you're playing out there. All kidding aside, it's a tremendous arena. They've built it, and they built it on a model of the other Coliseum to allow as much noise as they could possibly get into that place because they don't want, big, arena that's empty. So they try to really build in try to keep the noise factor from the Coliseum intact because that's one of the big features of the Coliseum up there on Long Island is the noise factor that the fans bring to that arena. So they wanted to try and preserve that, obviously, in the new arena, and they're very hopeful of that. And they're very close, obviously, to selling out. They're very anticipating that, so it should be a tremendous move for the Islanders, obviously. And to win and to be and you always want to go into a new arena when you're hot and when you're a great team, and that's where the Islanders are right now. They've got a lot of momentum, a lot of good things going for them right now. So it'll be interesting to see, obviously, if they can, go on to the Stanley Cup final over Tampa, which I think, this year, I think I always look at revenge series and I see it as kind of, okay, what happened in the last series, and the Islanders lost. So this is a good opportunity for the Islanders to come out.
About 8 goals in game 1. That's what happened.
Yes, exactly. This year, this year not gonna happen, Mike. This year not.
They got Sorokin.
Yes. Whoa. So with that, I want to bring in Alex with the boxing from last night, and of course,
that means it's time for
Mayweather. Really? Was that necessary? To put on TV?
Yeah. See, here's my point, Jeff.
Go ahead, Alex.
Look, all right, I get it. We know how Mayweather is. He loves to put on the show, right? He loves to give the people what they want to see. I'm being honest. Who wanted to see this fight? I'll address that later. We know how Mayweather is. I hate when I walk up to people and we'll have a conversation about it, and they're like, hey, he's just doing what the fans want, giving them a show. Okay, cool. It's the first big event since COVID, if you want to look at it that way or whatever, right? This, that, the third. Make excuses for it. Cool, whatever. The way I look at it is this. It makes me mad as a person, as a fan of the sport, because how many boxers train their whole life for a title shot? How many boxers try to work their way up the ranks to be worthy enough to fight someone of Mayweather's caliber? And this YouTuber, who has a big following, who has money behind him, who has eyes and views behind him, can fight Mayweather because of his status. I get it. It's an exhibition. It doesn't count. Which doesn't that make it worse? Because it was for nothing. This guy gets to step in the ring with a Hall of Famer, make $20 million for 4 rounds just to get the fan spectacle. That stadium wasn't even filled. From when I was watching the fight, it didn't look like it was still the way the MGM was. Granted, it started to rain a little bit, I think, in one of the earlier fights when Hurd was fighting and stuff, but it didn't look that filled, you know? I was like, okay, a lot of people definitely tuned in. I know I tuned in. The best fight on that card was the Jarrett Hurt fight. They were throwing haymakers. There was a second card in that fight out of the 4, and that was the best card in my opinion. But the way I look at it is he didn't deserve to be in the ring with Mayweather. He has one pro fight. He lost it. It could have been anybody else, but you see why it was done. It was done. This might open the door for more Mayweather exhibitions. He is retired from boxing and putting up his record or whatever, but the way I look at it is there were so many people who fought and tried for a shot at that, to share the ring with him and be worthy of it. And this guy who isn't worthy got that experience.
Right. And that's what I'm pointing to. It's the fact they turned into more of a sham because, it's just about, I believe it's about money. It's about Mayweather making his money, making, what it is, and not about necessarily the sport of boxing. And this is what Mayweather has done to the sport.
Right.
And, I don't agree with it necessarily. I know Mayweather, makes his money on it. That's what he does. And, you can't begrudge the guy for if somebody's going to say, okay, I'm going to throw all this money at you to go out there and fight and to do it. What the heck?
Right.
Go ahead and do it. So you don't begrudge the guy Mayweather for doing that. On the other hand, what does that do to the state of boxing?
And I think great question. I think it's a great question. And
Right.
Here's I tell people all the time too, because like I said, I like to see both sides. Logan Paul doesn't deserve to share the ring with Mayweather. But if anyone walked up to me and said, you want to make $100 million, nothing happens to you, and it's for 4 rounds, Mayweather goes 12 rounds. This guy likes boxing. Okay, he runs 12 miles like it's his job. He doesn't get tired. Okay, versus a guy who doesn't box. You want to pay me $100 million? Of course Mayweather's going to do it. He'll never turn it down. It does bring eyes to boxing. I do think eyes. Yeah. I think boxing does need more eyes. I think UFC is growing in that aspect. The other fighting industry, the UFC, I think they're growing in that aspect. I think boxing needs more eyes. That's what the Paul brothers are doing. I call them villains. I say you're better actors than you are fighters. Jake Paul gets the credit for being a fighter because you stepped in the ring. I'll give you that. But in reality, you haven't fought a boxer. You can call people out who don't box. And when you're having a Hall of Fame trainer train you and you have a 10-year advantage and you're currently in shape for boxing, I expect you to win off a guy who just came off the couch, But that's neither here nor there. I do think it will bring more eyes to boxing because you're bringing – YouTubers have younger audiences, have younger crowds. You're going to bring their fan base into boxing, so I think it does give more eyes, especially with the fights that are just being lined up. Davis versus Barrios, Spence and Pacquiao, which I think – I'll say this now – think it's going to be the best fight our generation sees. Manny Pacquiao versus Errol Spence later on in August. I would love to see that fight live in Vegas. And you have Charlo fighting too. So we're definitely going to build up some of these big fights that are coming up throughout the summertime. It's going to be a good summer for boxing.
Do you think, though, that the UFC has taken away a lot of those? And this is a fair point that you bring up with the younger viewers and so forth, and these younger people following it. Boxing is sort of, I would say, gone by the wayside as far as UFC is gone, is the fact that you've got that going on right now, and that is taken away from the sport of boxing. And boxing sort of has to find that audience.
I wouldn't say it's taking away. I would say, if anything, it can help gain more interest. Because now you have a guy like Tyron Woodley, who was a former UFC fighter, ready to box Jake Paul. I don't agree with that either. I don't agree with you calling out a guy who doesn't do this sport. Boxing, UFC take 2 different things, 2 different training routines, 2 different endurance rates, two completely different approaches. You're going to call one guy out, kind of say over here and say, you can't fight, but come box me. When this guy fought for a living in a real fighting cage, it's almost like an NFL player saying, hey, I'll spear you in football to a baseball player, or a baseball player telling a football player I can strike you out. Like, it's kind of obvious. I think Tyron Woodley will win. I'm not saying Paul wins. But I think, to answer your question more specifically, I don't think UFC's taking anything away from boxing. I think it's both helping, especially when some of these crossfires are fighting. Especially with Tyron Woodley stepping back in the stage. He's going to gain a lot more respect from UFC fans, from MMA fans, especially if he gains a win. And a lot of fans will cross over to watch that fight. So I will be one of the people watching.
And that's what I think they're hoping for, is to get those viewers to cross over and get those viewers back in. Because, look, boxing back in my generation, I mean, you had Evander Holyfield, you had Riddick Bowe, you had some big heavyweights, you had George Foreman, you had some of these big-time heavyweights that are just, no longer around right now in boxing. And boxing has become, not about necessarily the heavyweight division, but about the lesser weight divisions. So, because you don't have those big stars, at the top, the way that and not to mention Mike Tyson. I mean, I don't want to leave him out either. As far as bringing eyes to the sport of boxing, I just think UFC has done a better job of promoting so far. And look, I mean, Don King was the ultimate promoter of boxing. Back in the day, I mean, he had the fighters, he got the guys to come in and fight each other and so forth, and that worked for boxing because he got the big matches down in Vegas and so forth, and he was able to do that. And that, like Don King or not like Don King, he was able to do that with the sport of boxing.
Right.
Go ahead.
And to your point, UFC has that because they also have a guy like Conor McGregor, a great guy. Boxing had Mayweather. He was their cash cow. Boxing's looking for that next cash cow. It could be Gervonta Davis. It could be Errol Spence. I would hope it's Errol Spence, but it's looking to be Gervonta because of the Mayweather promotions and how Mayweather's still involved with it. But, UFC has a guy like Conor McGregor who can talk a lot of smack and bring a lot of eyes in. A lot of their views also come from those press conferences when they're smack talking each other. And is the way he just showboats and characters himself, Same thing with the John Jones and Daniel Cormier rivalry. People tune in to see that. And that's why, Mike, I'm against you there when you say this is rigged, because some of these guys genuinely hate each other. McGregor and Khabib, they hate each other. They don't like each other. You're stepping into a ring to go blow for blow, But boxing has more money behind it. These fighters in boxing get paid more money than UFC fighters. You're going blow for blow. And if you're losing fights, your status drops. And when your status drops, you're not making these card fights no more. You're not making these Vegas fights anymore. You're not making those headliners. That's why it's so big. It's so cutthroat. You see it everywhere, from amateurs to 203 to Showboat City to Miami, all the way out to Vegas.
Jay, I was actually looking in the paper this morning, not to change sports too drastically, but going back to the NBA, Becky Hammon for some head coaching positions. So that'll make some history as far as the major sports go, as far as the NBA, NHL, baseball, football, as far as females actually attaining the head coaching position. And and she right now is the assistant for the San Antonio Spurs. So she could actually move up and to take one of these head coaching jobs.
And the Portland Trail Blazers are due to interview Dawn Staley as well for their open head coaching position. So there's some other interesting names as well being tossed around. But yeah, I think it's very progressive of the NBA to interview women as head coaching. I'm all for it. I hope one of the two of them actually get the position and we can see them as head coaches in the NBA. I think that would be really good of the Portland Trail Blazers to name one of those two women as a head coach. I think they've earned it. I think they would do a heck of a job as a head coach, and hopefully one of the two get the job.
Absolutely. I think it's time, and especially if you've obviously worked in that Spurs organization, you've worked under one of the best coaches in history. So it's a credit to her. It's the fact of how she's risen through that organization, and the fact now that NBA teams are giving her a look as far as filling a vacancy. And, I'm interested to see, obviously, I hope for her to have success because, if she has success, and that could lead, obviously, to more women getting more head coaching positions. What you hope for is obviously, as they want to say, and as people say, you also want minorities to get interviewed as well, black coaches as well to be interviewed as well, and so forth. So, you don't want to forget about that as well going forward. And you want the athletes to speak up. You want LeBron James, these athletes speak up for the minorities, for these coaches to speak up, and be able to get these positions because. Some of these coaches have done, a very good job. You only have to look right now at the job done with Atlanta to see the job that these minority coaches can do if given the opportunity. So it's something that I think we have to, that's something that sports just have to address, and that goes for all these sports as far as football, baseball, and so forth go. Trying to interview not only black coaches, but also female coaches as well.
Definitely.
Anything else that we've missed today?
I think we hit it all, boss. I think we hit it all.
I just got word of a couple of rehab assignments in the Mets.
Okay.
Jeff McNeil rehabbing with the Brooklyn Cyclones. And I am hearing of a pitcher rehabbing with Port St. Lucie. I don't know who it is. Dylan Betances. Set to begin rehab assignment for Single A St. Lucie. He's been sidelined since the first week of the season. This is per Mike Puma of the New York Post. And Pat Ragazzo reported of the McNeil assignment. 4 to 5 innings is the plan for McNeil.
Mets are getting healthy, Jay.
Yes, they are.
And this is going to spell trouble for the NL East.
Absolutely.
You get Betances healthy, and you got some you got some power coming out of the back end of that bullpen for the Mets. So that's
shout out to Pat Ragazzo
if they can get Dylan Betances healthy, I think that's a big ad for the Mets as far as the back end of their bullpen goes. So. Especially now their closer's pitching all of a sudden. Met fans are ready to throw him out, and all of a sudden, here he is. He's blowing one save all year. So,
Edwin Diaz is pitching like 2015 Jerry's Familia.
Yes.
And Familia is pitching like, 2015 Familia.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's trouble.
That's trouble, especially when you add Betances into the mix.
And if Betances returns to how he pitched for the Trenton Thunder, that's trouble.
Yeah, that's trouble for the NL East, especially especially for the other teams, the Phillies, Braves. Oh yeah, that's some trouble. And
especially once
those teams,
my
brother pointed out, those teams have to keep pace, and that's why this is a big road trip coming up this week for the Phillies, going to the Dodgers and going to San Francisco. They got to come out of that, with at least, going. I don't want to say 500 because it's a 6-game trip, but you'd like to see them come out and not lose most of the games on that trip.
They got to come out at least 3-3.
Yeah,
they could easily go 0 for 6.
Yeah, well, the Dodgers aren't that good, so. Depends on, I got to check out to see if Kershaw is going to pitch in that series. So.
Depends on if you hit Kershaw and Urias.
Yeah. With that.
If you hit Kershaw, it's over.
I just want to say, good luck, obviously, to Phil Mickelson. Obviously, this week, Father's Day weekend coming up next weekend. And
U.S. Open. On my birthday, June 20th.
Yes. And we will be celebrating your birthday right here on the Sports Skill Radio Show.
I don't look like I'm about to turn 27, do I?
Not at all.
Not at all, Mike. But,
that's a big car complex right there.
But we want to wish Phil Mickelson the best of luck. Obviously, he's coming off a big win in the last major. We want to wish him the best of luck here as he tries to complete the Grand Slam. He's been trying to do this for many, many years now. So we'll wish Phil Mickelson the best of luck. As he goes and tries to complete the Triple Crown and win the U.S. Open for the first time in forever because he's never won the U.S. Open. So we wish him obviously the best of luck. And, it's out there in California, Pebble Beach, so we'll see what happens out there.
And he usually likes Pebble Beach.
Yes. Anything to report on auto racing, Mike, before we leave?
Tonight is the All-Star race, and it's a fairly confusing format this time around. First 4 segments are 15 laps. After the first and third segment, there's an inversion of around 8 to 12 cars. And second segment, full field inversion. Fourth segment, same thing. Fifth segment, 30 laps. There's going to be a pit crew competition. The pit crew with the fastest time gets $100,000. After the fifth segment, the team that has the lowest average finish gets the first slot for the final 10-lap segment. Second gets second starting position, and so on. So it's like golf, where if you have the lowest score, you get the win. And final segment, 10 green flag laps. That's the final dash for the $1 million. And it's at Texas Motor Speedway, so they're going full Wild West.
Ooh, that should be fun to watch tonight. So tune in.
That'll be over on Fox Sports 1.
Yes, because you know what they're putting. You realize what they're putting on Fox Sport. You know what they're putting on Fox tonight. They're putting on the dogs. So if anybody,
yeah, I don't think that gets through its initial 10-episode order.
Yes. So if you're wondering if anybody out there, is a dog lover. We have plenty of dog lovers out there. You have the Kennel Club Dog Show tonight on Fox Best in Show. So good luck to all the dogs competing out there for Best in Show tonight as Fox puts that on in prime time. We wish all the dogs, no kidding around, the best of luck as they compete for the Best in Show tonight. With that, I think we've covered the game.
All-Star opens at 6, and the All-Star race, the main event, 8 p.m. Fox Sports 1.
There you go.
Just have to throw that in before you say
we like to wish everyone a very happy, a very safe week, and we like to thank everyone for joining us this week. I thank Al Griffin for chiming in with his comment. Please don't forget to comment. Leave your rant if you want to. Anchor.fm. We always love to hear it. With that, we will see you again next week right here on the Sports Coverage Show. Have a great week, everybody.
Stays right where Allen wants to go. Wants the baseline.